Doc Brown's DeLorean, Hermione's Time Turner, and Doctor Who's TARDIS are all classic examples of time machines. While I may not have time machines such as these, the modern clock is just as impressive. For thousands of years, man has sought dominion over time. However, because we lacked the means to quantify it, time was chaotic and irregular throughout the world. Every region, tribe, and city had a different system. But why does it matter if time was unregulated, and you were unable to determine what time it actually was? Well, for example, let's say you wanted to meet your friend sometime after lunch. You arrive when the sun is high in the sky, and your friend doesn't arrive until almost sunset. See our dilemma? From our need for regularity and order sprang the desire to measure this fluid commodity, to make it masterable and rigid. But, measured or not, time marches on. Let us begin with the ancients, who looked to the skies to measure their days, weeks, and years. The Egyptians' proficiency in mathematics, coupled with their observation of the heavens, led to the creation of the sundial, circa 1500 BC. The Egyptian sundial broke day up, not into 24 equal hours, but into 12 sections of daylight, varying from season to season. Obviously, the sundial had some shortcomings, as it was not useful when it was overcast or at night. But, as always, inconvenience leads to progress. The need for time measurement devices, independent from the confines of daylight, led to the invention of devices such as candle clocks, water clocks, and the sand timer. Although these devices were more dependable than sundials, they had their own flaws. However, revolutionary as these inventions may have been for their time, they were essentially glorified egg timers, incapable of keeping time for long durations. Additionally, water clocks had to be calibrated for each day of the year, and were very inaccurate. As the water level dropped, so did the pressure, thus creating inaccurate measurements. But, measured or not, time marches on. The next big leap of innovation came in the 14th century with the invention of the mechanical clock. The mechanical clock used weights, or pendulums, to keep time. For the most part, these clocks were accurate for their era, only losing about 1 to 2 hours per day. Furthermore, clocks were much more dependable than their predecessors, and were capable of keeping time for longer periods. Eventually, every town had their own clock tower, finally making accurate timekeeping possible for the common people. And with the invention of the mainspring in the 15th century, clocks gradually became smaller and smaller until the invention of the pocket watch in the 17th century. Advancement in clockmaking came in 1880 when French scientist Pierre Curie discovered that applying pressure to quartz crystals made them vibrate at a very specific frequency. And then, in 1928, with this information, W.A. Marison invented the first quartz crystal clock, replacing the mechanical clock and other timepieces. But, measured or not, time marches on. Astronomical observations are a decent base for modern time. But even quartz crystal clocks aren't accurate enough to provide the precise measurements necessary for today's technology. The flaws in quartz affect the frequency at which the crystals vibrate. And over the years, the frequency of that given crystal tends to drift. The atomic clock, however, is far more accurate, the first of which was constructed by English physicists L. Essen and J. Perry in 1955. But how does it work? For the sake of brevity, let me paraphrase. The atomic clock exposes the electrons in a cesium atom to a specific frequency. When attached to a resonator, the cesium-133 oscillates at roughly 9 billion cycles per second. When paired with a reader, we can use these measurements to make the precise calculations necessary for our technology. While we may not have devices that can transport us to the far reaches of time, we've discovered something much more useful, and quite frankly, much safer: clocks, the only measure of the ever-flowing substance we call time. And with the popularity of cell phones, time is more convenient and masterable than ever. Who knows what can happen next? But, measured or not, time marches on.